Welcome back. And moving overseas, Myanmar's military government has sentenced the deposed civilian leader Aung San Suu Kyi to 4 years in jail. The former state councillor and symbol of Myanmar's democracy is convicted of inciting unrest against the junta and breaking COVID rules. The 76-year-old is facing a raft of other offenses, including corruption, possessing unregistered walkie-talkies, and violation of the colonial-era Official Secrets Act. This is the first verdict against the civilian leaders, 10 months after they were ousted in a military coup. Last month, the junta sentenced American journalist Danny Fenster to 11 years in jail before he was released and expelled from the country on humanitarian grounds. A former United Nations envoy in Myanmar slammed the judgment, which she said was based on bogus charges. But Yang He-lee also had a stern message for the international community.
In this situation, under the junta, the SAC is overseeing everything and all the judiciary processes. And therefore, one cannot say it's anywhere near being fair and free and independent. But, you know, what will the international community do? I think the people of Myanmar have lost hope in the United Nations and its member states, and to a certain degree, ASEAN countries as well. But this itself is a testament to how the international community is really not on board with what is really happening in Myanmar.
There are growing fears of an imminent Russian invasion against Ukraine as Moscow is sending as many as 175,000 troops to the border. Russian President Vladimir Putin will talk to his American counterpart Joe Biden tomorrow amid threats of new sanctions. 6 months after their first summit in Geneva, U.S. President Joe Biden is set to speak to his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin again tomorrow. The leaders will hold a video call at a time when war clouds hover above the border of Russia and Ukraine. Moscow has been amassing tens of thousands of troops at Ukraine's doorsteps, prompting Biden to warn against an invasion. Last week, Secretary of State Antony Blinken told his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov in Sweden that a Russian incursion will trigger fresh U.S. sanctions. Moscow, on its part, accused Kiev of building up forces in its eastern territory, which is controlled by Russia-backed separatists. The West is wary of Russia's military aggression following its annexation of the Crimean Peninsula in 2014 as NATO toyed with Ukraine's membership. Washington responded with sanctions against Moscow, but Putin justified the move on the controversial referendum favoring a Russian takeover. But before talking to Biden, Putin first travels to New Delhi to meet Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Regional security and arms deals will be on the agenda as Russia looks to expand its influence in Asia. The United States is set to announce this week that it will not send any government officials to the Winter Olympics in Beijing. But European countries, most notably France, remain hesitant to launch diplomatic boycotts. The odds seem to be increasingly stacked against China as it begins its final preparations for the Winter Olympics. In just 62 days, Beijing is unveiling a $3.9 billion winter sports wonderland amid a Delta outbreak in the north, as well as calls from the west to boycott the event. U.S. President Joe Biden is set to make an official announcement that he will not send any government officials to the gala. U.S. media said the decision is a calculated one, while the White House hopes to send a message to China over its human rights record. It doesn't wish to deny American athletes the chance to shine. An unfazed China shrugged off the news, pointing out that European countries such as Spain and Denmark have defied U.S. calls for a boycott. Beijing is also proud that 173 nations sponsor its Olympic truce resolution in the United Nations, the most in the recent history of the Winter Games. The truce is a Greek tradition which dates back to the 8th century. Under the accord, countries must put aside their differences from the 7th day before each games to the 7th day after the end of the event. One of America's oldest allies, France, is among over 20 countries to speak in favor of the resolution, as Paris continues to shift its pivot towards Asia and away from the Atlantic. This also shows that France's distrust towards Washington is hardly abating after the recent fallout involving a scuppered nuclear submarine deal with Australia. Tech giant Alibaba is replacing its longtime chief financial officer in its first major management reshuffle since a regulatory probe earlier this year. Toby Xu will succeed Maggie Wu as CFO from April 1st, while two e-commerce teams will be set up to oversee the domestic and international markets. But the moves did little to ease investor concerns over the stability of U.S.-listed Chinese tech firms days after Didi announced plans to delist from Wall Street. Alibaba shares once tumbled 8% to a record low before recouping some of the losses. Now let's take a look at the markets. The Hang Seng Index closed down 417 points. Top 10 active stocks: Tencent down $14.80, Alibaba down $6.70, Meituan down $8.80, and JD.com down $15.60. Tracker Fund down 42 cents, BYD Company down $13.80, and Wuxi Biologics down $7.30. Forex trading against Hong Kong dollar. Euro is trading at 8.81, British pound at 10.35, Canadian dollar at 6.10, and Australian dollar at 5.48. Over to the UK market, FTSE 100 is up 66 points. On to the weather now. Another fine and dry day tomorrow after a cool start. Temperatures will range between 16 and 22 degrees. More of the same in the coming days. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. That's HKIBC main news for this Monday night. We'll come back with more news at 11. I'm Sarah Wong. Thanks for joining us and take care.